you go through all this medical school and this, that, and the other, and you really think Black women have thicker skin and don't feel pain the same way as their European counterparts. And it's like, what?
I want to eliminate barriers to healing for Black community members, other people who've been historically excluded. Access to care, education, peer support services, anger management. We do it all. Had people have been able to step in and see his humanity beyond his Blackness, how would he have been treated in this healthcare system? I'm wondering how many other people are put in this place to carry shame and guilt and embarrassment that isn't theirs to carry, and I want to help them to where they don't have to be like me and feel that shame, feel that guilt, and feel that embarrassment. If we don't tell our stories, who will? Or what will it look like for somebody else to tell our stories? So that's why I think it's really important to bring in teams like yours to really help us tell our stories in a way that is authentic, in a way that will be to our truth.
Healing isn't just personal, it changes the world. Wondering how trauma, care, and leadership intersect? Then this episode explores it all. Today's guest is Ashley McGirt-Adair, psychotherapist, TEDx speaker, and founder of the Therapy Fund Foundation. Ashley challenges how we think about mental health, leadership, and what it truly means to heal. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Longtime friend, longtime fan.
Right. Right back at you.
Before we dive into it, it's like, what got you to this couch in this amazing black leather jacket? We were talking about Prince earlier, and I'm getting all the Purple Rain vibes.
Listen.
But what got you here? What's your earliest collective, or for the few, the privilege that Carl Shimani, first memory that you got?
Definitely probably club hopping days.
Come on.
Man, Tia Lou's, Amber, whatever was out back then.
Pre-cell phone
yes,
photos.
Pre-cell phone.
Where you had to go to Carlos for the photo.
Man.
Times were...
I still have them.
I felt like we're more free.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have, a phone around every corner.
Right.
You could just have fun.
Just live your life. You don't got to worry about people. We capture this for the gram. No, I'm just living my life.
I love it. It's fun getting to sit down and talk with people that know me from that space, because it's also vice versa, right? You were in college, and on the flip side, I get to watch your whole journey. Where it's like, man, I remember when you was just having fun during spring break, and then here you are, a whole clinician, a whole runner of multiple entities, writing. You're managing an amazing team of folks in the mental health space with the Therapy Fund. And yes, I mean, it's been awesome just to kind of watch it from afar. And then obviously when I get to do up close, when we get to work together and stuff, it's just great to tap in and see the work.
Yeah.
There's so many sides of it, right? Where it's like, I definitely look at community as that 360 where, great, yes, we need housing. Yes, we need food. And so many times we forget about the mental health of it. And it's like, if you don't got the health part, you ain't got nothing.
And if you don't have the housing part too, I mean, your basic needs have to be met first. I always say therapy is not going to be that effective if you're unhoused, if your lights aren't on. I can talk you through some basic coping skills, but you need your basic needs to really be met.
That's so true, because it's kind of like you don't leave the trauma cycle.
Yeah.
Like you're literally, okay, you'll leave the meeting and then you go right back into trauma. And another trigger or whatever. Yeah. I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank
and
you.
Speaking of, like I always like to say as well, is like, everyone has a unique story and journey, but chances are there is another little girl out there that looks like you that's now seeing what's possible. They get to be on a podcast.
Right.
But tell them about the journey of what got you going and to where you are now.
Yeah, so the long and short story of it is I was raised by my grandma, just growing up in a public health crisis that was not labeled as such during that time, the crack epidemic. And unfortunately, there was limited resources available to my family and families like mine. And then when my grandma passed away, my grief turned into major depression. I ended up going to a predominantly white school and seeing a white counselor, who did not understand the role of grandmother in Black families. So I was 9 years old and found myself educating her on race relations in America. And I was like, there's got to be another way. I actually wanted to study law. I was really obsessed with Johnny Cochran. I watched that whole trial, everything. I had never seen a Black attorney in my life.
That glove don't fit.
Right. And I'm like, Johnny. I want to do what he's doing. And in some ways, I still work with law, and I do well, not anymore, but I used to provide expert testimony as a clinician to courts around like race-related cases, around discrimination and things like that. I don't do it too much anymore. But really, it was just my own grief that turned to depression, not having any resources available to me, and then started studying psychology, social work to really heal my own depression. And then I wanted to help other people like myself. I started working with kids, which I still do. I'll do groups, but I don't provide individual therapy to kids. And then fast forward 2020, we're in a global pandemic, exacerbated racial stressors, George Floyd protests, back-to-back murders, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, our own Charlena Lyles, the list goes on. And people were calling on me because I was involved with the NAACP and other social justice avenues. And they kept asking me, what can we do to help Black people during this time? And I'm like, well, you can help them to get free therapy because my community is struggling right now. Not to be egotistical, but I'm one of the best clinicians in the field. Back then, there was very few clinicians who were looking at the impact that racism has on our mental health. Now, racial trauma is a hot topic. Everybody's, learning what racial trauma is, and therapists are being trained in that way. But back then I was one of the few, and I was priced really low, either providing free services or $30 an hour. I still have $100,000 in student loan debt, and not just me, but other peers in my space who were doing the same work. So I was like, pay for Black people to get free therapy. And then that morphed into a nonprofit. And when building the foundation of a nonprofit, which I didn't really know about, I was working for Providence Hospice of Seattle at the time and running a private practice. So I was helping people on hospice therapy. And I'm like, okay, what is this nonprofit thing? You need a mission, you need your bylaws, articles of incorporation. And I'm like, what's the mission going to be? It's got to be bigger than free therapy, even though that's the premise in which we started on from the GoFundMe and just raising money. And I'm like, I want to eliminate barriers to healing for Black community members, other people who've been historically excluded. What are those barriers? Access to care, education, peer support services, anger management. We do it all. Youth support. So any barrier that you can think of that comes in place when it comes to tackling your mental health, your overall well-being, the Therapy Fund Foundation is doing it.
I've had a unique seat at the table, being to be at your guys' convenings and in other spaces, and hearing you guys talk and about the impact, and you see it, and you've put together an awesome team.
Yeah.
One thing I can say is like literally everyone that I've seen from your team is a credible messenger in their own way. I'm sure it was done on purpose, but there's a lot of intentionality about that.
Yeah.
And that's dope and special. And I think that's what happens when you have, you didn't come and you weren't appointed the ED of this. This is something that came from a need, a love, but also a vision. I know you've been a part of the mental health system, right? From a hospital kind of aspect, from a business kind of aspect, aside from your personal practice. But I wanted to dive a little bit into that because I've heard you speak upon, when did you realize, or as far as that mental health system needing repair or a reimagining as far as how it affects and relates to Black and brown people?
I knew it from a young age as a child, like I said, being 9 years old, and I knew there had to be another way. I'm like, this can't be it. This can't be how I get to feel better, by explaining systems that I didn't create. And as a child, I didn't understand why this adult didn't have the education, the knowledge, or the understanding about my community, and why she placed certain shame and guilt on me as a child. Because when you're a kid, you don't really know how things are viewed until other people let you know that's wrong, or maybe you should feel embarrassed about it. And I remember explaining how I didn't know my dad at the time, who he was incarcerated, and she was just like, whoa, And then I was like, oh, maybe I should feel woo-woo because I don't know, or because he's incarcerated. So then that was something that I really hid and felt shame for, that had nothing to do with me. The things that he did in his life, he has to be accountable for that. But I remember holding that based on my counselor, who shared those feelings with me that I didn't even know I should be carrying. And then as I grew older, I was just like, I'm wondering how many other people are put in this place to carry shame and guilt and embarrassment that isn't theirs to carry. And I want to help them to where they don't have to be like me and feel that shame, feel that guilt, and feel that embarrassment, and just be able to get the support and the tools that they need from somebody who's already aware of it.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, it just sounded like she did not have the tools. But then at the same time, it's like, what kind of awareness is it of, one, I don't have the tools to engage with this community, and then why am I even in this community if I don't have the tools, right? It's like almost doing yourself a disservice as the clinician, then clearly doing a disservice to this 9-year-old that you're just projecting all these things onto.
And it was twofold too, because while I understand that she didn't have the education and she could have done some things on her part in whatever school she went to, I don't know. And I'm just guessing. I'm pretty sure she was probably in her 20s, just from what I can remember at the time. But what stands out very clearly is they used to show these faces. They still do it, but now they're more diverse. And they'll ask you to pick out a face and share, how do you feel? Which one looks like you? And these were white, pale faces, blonde hair, blue eyes. Maybe there was a couple with brown eyes, brown hair. And I'm looking at these faces and I don't see myself. And while I'm very sad, going on depressed because of the loss of my grandmother, I'm like, I don't see myself. So there's nothing for me to point to. And I wonder if there were faces that looked like mine, would I have been able to actually point to it and really get the support that I needed? Instead, I'm like, this don't look nothing like me, so I don't see any of these faces that are representing how I'm feeling. But fast forward today, 2026, there's now like diverse feeling cards available for kids. Is everybody using them? No. Should they be? Yes. I want the youth to be able to see themselves in any way. And sometimes that's how they express themselves, by pointing. I'm looking like that. But if it's a blonde hair, blue eyes, and you don't have that, you're not going to point to that.
Then you never get a chance to kind of identify your feelings,
right?
So you can better understand it and figure out and get your own tools to help deal with those. And I'm dealing with that now with the 5-year-old that has a lot of strong feelings. We're working through some of those and letting them know, it's okay to be anything, sad, mad, all of it is okay, but just kind of understanding it and then kind of figuring out what's a healthy way to help work through it and those kinds of things. But that makes so much sense to where it's like, growing up 80s, 90s, like that was just the reality. We had maybe 2 TV shows and that was about it. If you're lucky. There just wasn't a lot of representation in marketing, in television, and then you can only imagine in a clinician, situation, it's probably even far and few between. But that's why we have places like the Therapy Fund that helps to bring that awareness and essentially helps us to solve a lot of those problems that you're able to see and then be able to amplify. I love that. I'd love to talk a little bit more about what the Therapy Foundation does. So it sounds like, you guys are helping to break down barriers like you had mentioned. And then can you talk more about like the annual event and some of these other things that we have coming up? I know we have some fun youth things and other stuff.
Absolutely. To only be 5 years old, I'm always
little
amazed.
Baby.
Right. I'm always amazed at the things that the Therapy Fund Foundation is doing. So, of course, we host our annual Reclaiming Wellness Conference, the only BIPOC-led mental health conference on the entire West Coast, which is extremely important, especially for clinicians like myself, because in order to maintain our licenses, we have to have so many continuing education credits to show that we are learning and constantly learning new things in the field, whether it's ethics, whether it's new trauma-informed training or whatever is out there. And typically when we go to conferences, they're white-led or they're focused on those of European descent, and they're not applying applying principles and techniques to help you treat communities of color. And so that's what's different about the Reclaiming Wellness Conference, is that we're very intentional about bringing clinicians of color, mental health advocates of color, and specific trainings to those populations, whether it's helping Latinx sexual assault survivors heal through that process. What does that look like? Whether it's understanding the DSM for the culture and breaking down certain diagnoses so that we don't overdiagnose or misdiagnose people of color. What other workshops have we had? Veterans, yeah, working with veterans of color. And that's huge because so many of our veterans end up unhoused. My uncle, he actually died fighting for the VA to actually support him. He experienced a lot of trauma, served in Vietnam, suffered from alcoholism. And I remember my mom fighting for the VA, calling, trying to get him support, trying to get him care, even down to the benefits when he was at the hospital. And up until he died, he was at Auburn Regional Medical Facility, and they were not providing him the specific care that he needed. My mom's a registered nurse, and she's like, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? And, you know, he has, I think it's TRICARE, TriWest, whatever it is for veterans. So he has good insurance. He served this country. But what you see is a black man, you know, his hair is unkempt. He looks the way that he looks, of course, eyes bloodshot because he drank a bottle of gin a day. But you still aren't offering him the appropriate care. Had my mom not been a registered nurse and not known to be able to say, do X, Y, and Z for him, he wouldn't have been able to get the support that he needed. And while unfortunately he ended up dying still from the situation, but I wonder, you know, had people have been able to step in and see his humanity beyond his blackness, you know, we're still considered 3/5, all of that, how would he have been treated in this healthcare system? And so that's why I do the work that I do, because not only because my Uncle Wayne, but my grandmother, who was also mistreated and died very early at 62 years old, she was sent home with a brain bleed. Same thing that happened to Jamie Foxx. He actually recently did a stand-up on Netflix called What Had Happened Was, and he details the story of how they sent him home with a brain bleed. He's a multimillionaire celebrity. So these things are still happening to us. I could tell you about Serena Williams or Beyonce and their pregnancy stories. Millionaires, black women, still being mistreated by the healthcare system.
It happens way too often. And like you said, it's just a matter of, can you see the humanity? I mean, there's folks that you go through all this medical school and this, that, and the other, and you really think black women have thicker skin and don't feel pain the same way as their European counterparts. And it's like, what?
I remember back in the day that police officers used to use like a hollow point bullet or something because they said that the regular bullets, black people were unfazed by them. Insane. Like, what?
Right.
So we have the power to withstand these bullets. Okay.
Insane. Yeah, no, that's wild. Circling back to the Reclaiming Wellness, that's been a joy to watch grow. It's grown because I think you've just had more people, but like the keynotes from year one was fire. Yeah. And it's not like it grew like, oh, you got bigger and better people. Like, there was fire before. Yeah. We were just in a smaller space. So I think that's been dope. 'Cause I think part of it is you're a fan of this work. Yeah. So you follow people that bring insight to you, like that I would pay to go see them talk. So you're like, I'm gonna bring you over here. Yes. And so like you got real people. So that's been really cool to see, just the way that they connect with that community. I definitely feel that the people in the room see themselves with the people on stage and vice versa. There's a unique thing that you don't really see at every conference. I think it's something special that you guys have. And then just the personal touches of your openings, you know, usually have some kind of performance based or some kind of tribute to the arts, if it be spoken word or singing or whatnot. I mean, you got a DJ there. Like, how many conferences got a DJ for in between? But sometimes you need that music to move you on to the next workshop. And then I think one thing special I was in the room that it was happening in, so that maybe it was there before, but you had a dope panel of these brilliant women talking about finances and its relation to mental health and stuff. And I heard you earlier, we had talked about how every aspect of your life is part of the puzzle, right? You can't just fix it if you're unhoused. You can't fix it if you're drowning in debt. But talk a little bit about like your intentionality about some of these other workshops and how it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, so I always have an idea about people that I want in the space and topics, but it's also really community led and community driven. So we put out call sheets, surveys, and we ask, what topics do you want to hear? Who do you want to hear from? People will put down, Michelle Obama. I'm like, okay, we ain't got that kind of money right now. Let's reel it in a little bit. But I mean, shout out to Obama if y'all want to come. So yeah, I remember our first keynote, Dr. Blackstock. She's amazing. She's a person who I've been following for quite some time, does a lot of advocacy around advancing health equity, which is part of our work, advancing health equity. She's a leader in the field, someone who was really speaking out, especially during the pandemic when Black and brown folks were disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. And then there was a lot of concerns just around like vaccine hesitancy, some of the past harms and current harms that still happen on Black and brown bodies when we're looking at the medical apartheid, Tuskegee experiments. And it happened to my aunt doing like performing hysterectomies on Black women and other things so that they cannot have children. So she was really vocal about that, and she's somebody who I wanted to have there. Then we had my mentor, Dr. Joy DeGruy, who's been really pivotal in just naming post-traumatic slave syndrome and the connection to slavery and present-day behaviors and how that shows up and impact us. And then, when you look at all of these things, we carry a lot of anger and rage. So I really wanted to bring in Dr. Jennifer Mullen, who does a lot of work around just healing rage and decolonizing therapy and getting back to that ancestral work. And this year we have Dr. Tama Bryant, who is amazing, phenomenal. Every time I see her, hear her speak, I'm like in tears, and you dance, and that's what I like, the music element piece and just how she really gets you to embrace this work in a way that is fun and uplifting. And she was the very first Black president of the American Psychological Association, and the work that she did in the short amount of time that she was president for the APA was just really phenomenal. Just knowing their work, community, and we do a call for proposals, which we currently have right now. So if you actually want to present a workshop, you can submit it by March 15th. And then we have a team of people who join our planning committee. You can also join our planning committee, and we vote, and then we determine. And sometimes it's really hard. Last year, we were at Lumen Field, home of the Seahawks, hopefully Super Bowl champions next week. And so a lot of people wanted to be able to present at Lumen Field for that experience. And it was the most amount of submissions we had ever received, and it was very difficult to choose through them. But that's how we vote. We ask, what do you guys want to hear? What topics are relevant in the community? Money is a big topic. That's how we had the financial workshop. Immigration, especially right now with ICE. We had Dr. Pauline, who really broke down, I think her workshop was like working with children of immigrants or something. Her workshop was so powerful. I remember walking by, she was in the T-Mobile room, and she had said something. It was like, she talked about if you hate your parents, you hate yourself, and how when we carry that hate for our parents, how it shows up and how to undo that, because there's a lot of harm that our parents have done to us. But what does that look like when you carry that hate? How do you forgive and move through, not allowing them, of course, to abuse you in whatever ways? But I remember just walking by, stopping in my tracks, and her sharing her experiences and what it's like being an immigrant child. And we're not taught that in therapy. I went to, top university in the field, University, Washington, Clark Atlanta University, Harvard, and they weren't teaching us how to provide care for immigrants. So that's why we bring in people like Dr. Pauline or Dr. Jordan Shannon, who talked about providing care for Black men who are in college and who are stressed. There's very few Black men in universities, and they have to deal with that stress of being the only or being the first. How do you support them in their journey so that they don't burn out and drop out of school?
I love the community-led aspect of it. Like you said, you could just pick them all from your own internal team, but it's like, are we really doing service to community? Let's hear about what they have to say. Now, we ain't gonna entertain everything if you all being crazy.
Yeah,
but there's good insight. A lot of times you just kind of get reassured, like, hey, we were thinking folks wanted to do that. Yeah. Other people are chiming in, and you get that consensus. But then it's like you're moving together. Like we're in it together. We're moving this forward together, and you get that vested interest. If you get the folks in the planning committee or whoever to want to be there, then they're going to be in space, but be more attentive and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, we've been, you know, at different conferences from the AV side. Like, man, this room is looking pretty empty. Like, I know there's 1,000 people here, but for whatever reason, they're not bought in. You know, they're just there because their job sent them. They're there to get their gift bag, eat the food, and get out of there. But for you guys, it's like, you know, I mean, every room is full. Like, everything is like, it's almost like musical chairs. Like, you got to hurry up and get there before it fills up, and then you got to move on to the next and whatnot. But that's why I really like, you have a very, what's the word? Like, people are there for a reason. They're vested and they're wanting to pick up what you're putting down. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about, it kind of leads into it in terms of, you know, the production side of it and the partnership with creative to help with the storytelling aspect, or just kind of having that trust of, like, you know, are we getting put in a good light, and are we getting our stuff forward? Because one thing I want to say is, you had us set up doing interviews, and that was a dope thing of, we got some really good footage, but you could tell because people were there, they were passionate about the work. But let's talk a little bit about, like, why even have an AV team or a partner or some of that storytelling, and how does that benefit an org like yours?
Yeah, if we don't tell our stories, who will? Or what will it look like for somebody else to tell our stories? So that's why I think it's really important to bring in teams like yours to really help us tell our stories in a way that is authentic, in a way that will be to our truth and not to somebody else's truth. I think about the griots, the storytellers in Africa, who were the most revered people in the community, oftentimes more so than the king or the queen, because they held the stories. And these are things, videos, capsules that we can go back to year after year and watch and highlight and relive. And another thing is access. Not everybody is able to come to Seattle. So we've done the hybrid model that you've done for us, where people in Africa or New York or wherever across the world can tune in. And we have people all around the world tuning in, people who are flying in. We typically give away a prize if you come in person to the person who came the furthest away. I want to say our very first year, it was like Panama. Someone came from Panama. Last year, I believe it was probably somebody from the East Coast. And then like our second year, they were vacationing in Africa. So I don't know if that'll really count, but they
like,
did.
I came from Ghana.
Yeah.
But you live in St. Louis. Let's be real.
They did leave Africa and then come to our conference, which was really huge. And they were like, can I get the prize? But I think they were somewhere in the West Coast. And then the further person was like, nah, because I live X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But we gave them both a prize. So yeah, really just access, being able to tell our stories, relive it. And also too, these conferences are not free. They're very costly. It costs about $100,000 or more. And this is doing it on discounts, people who really care about the work that we're doing, sponsors. And I bring that up because when we are trying to get sponsors, we can share the videos with them and let them see what they're funding and contributing to. They can hear from the people who are in the conference. And we also have vendor space, exhibitor space. So we open it up to people who are doing work in the mental health space for them to showcase their services. And, you know, it's like a fair. You can walk around, you can buy things. You know, we have Norlux Candles, who's been like almost every year. Queen Care was there one year, different organizations in the community doing great work. And they're just able to pass out flyers, you know, meet people, build up their email list, whatever it is, make connections, because that's really what it's about. Yeah, we want those continuing education credits, but we also want the connections. We want the learning. We want the education.
Your organization does exceptionally well is what to do with the content once given to you. So many times as the producer of said content, you know, we'll deliver files, photos, videos, whatever it is that we're doing. And just for context for you guys, we help with the hybrid. So we're running all the videos that play in the main room and then the breakout rooms, and capturing all that and then having it for you for afterwards to post wherever you need to, because sometimes that Zoom recording don't be what you need it to be. So you want to make sure you got that high definition.
Yes.
But then setting up, I think we've done photo booths as well that can help with like branding and community, and then those interviews that help with that recap video as well, because you said it yourself, like if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to do it. Always want to control your narrative. But I feel like you guys put some intentionality, now that we're 2-3 years into it, around, okay, how can we really effectively, take advantage of it? And I think we kind of, not necessarily pre-scripted, but, put together some bullet points of, okay, we know we're going to have a recap video, but what's our messaging? What do we want to put towards? And we have yourself and some board members that will come in and really kind of, give it that little oomph. Like one thing I can say, like with event recap videos, they look really cool, some slow motion stuff, some this, that, and the other, but I feel like without the voice to kind of guide them through, you kind of leave in a little something on the table. So I think this past year is probably one of my favorite ones that we did with you guys, and it was because we had that moment, right? You looked awesome in your outfit, and Deontay was doing his thing as well, but you guys really spoke to the moment, and then we could add in the visuals that went to it as well. But just I don't know what you guys do on your side when you're thinking about it, but I know we gave you guys assets, and then we're just seeing awesome posts going up and getting reused. I'm like, yes, thank you, that's what it's for. I hate when I give someone like, hey, what happened to those photos? Oh, we're gonna get to it or whatever, and it's like, oh, but it could be doing so much work for you, like getting the word out and building on that and letting that help just grow your audience, and that those sponsors, those those attendants and things of that nature. How does that work from an org side of how do you guys think about the stuff you're gonna do, and then once you get it, how do you guys deploy?
Yeah, part of it is being a creator. My mind doesn't stop. So I'll be up in the middle of the night just thinking about different things or concepts. And I have a really awesome social media specialist, Luna, who just started working with us, maybe a little bit last year. She's been with us for a little bit now. So she's been doing all our graphics, and she's very creative, and she's into pop culture. I don't watch a lot of reality shows, so if you see all of the things that she does, like Love Island, and then she's also studying psychology, so she brings in those mental health elements, or she'll ask me and I'll look it over to make sure like it's on par. But I love how she integrates the pop culture. I'll be like, I don't know who this person is, I don't know what this is about, but it's relatable to the people who are really into that. Or like music, she recently did something with like Meg Thee Stallion and her mental health journey, and then brought that in with the therapy fund piece and created these really cool, awesome graphics and other things that are happening in the world. And she's just really good at designing. Her design aesthetic is really top tier, and with the branding and the way that she's been able to take it to the next level. And then what we've been doing recently, you'll see we just highlighted Jeanette Dove and Healing the Inner Child. So we're doing a series that Luna's working to create the graphics on, and highlighting all of the past workshops that we've done over the years. So you'll be seeing those coming out on our social media page. And one of my favorite things that she did, it was like, what do Black families and vampires have in common? And she talked about like the trauma using Sinners, the film Sinners, and she made it into a comic book graphic, and we put that out. We put it on our newsletter. People were calling me like, who is doing your graphics? Because it's so bomb right now. And I was like, well, dang, I guess it was lackluster when I was doing it. But no, respect to Luna and just her creativity, whether it's ideas that I'm coming up with or ways that she's incorporating pop culture like You. I haven't seen You. I need to watch it. There's so many shows I need to watch right now. But the graphics and the content that she put together was really phenomenal. And then I had to talk to her just about the psychology, because he was going around unaliving folks or whatever that backstory is. And then she was asking me, how does this tie in to mental health? What are the diagnoses that he would maybe have? And then she told me a little bit about his relationship with his mother. So I'm hearing these things in these shows. And of course, she's telling me the whole show. But we're able to make it relatable and then tie in those mental health pieces. And so that's a huge part to both her and my program director, who watches all the reality shows. And she'll be like, can we talk about so-and-so? Can we talk about this? Kenya on Real Housewives just did this. We need to talk about this.
No, I love that. So what you're saying is everyone needs to get a Luna.
Yes,
You can,
a Luna, a Jaquel, a Nasari, a Zivia, a Jessie.
And then you'll be good.
And a Callie. I can't forget Dr. Callie.
There you go. There you go. No, but that's dope though. And one, it's just a matter of utilizing, like, some people, know social media is out there, but it's like everyone, pretty much every customer segment is on some form of social media.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing it, you're doing a disservice to your business and your potential client or customer that could benefit from your service. So it's like if it's something that you can't do yourself, finding team members or other people that have that skill set. But the main thing that I was getting to or with that was, utilizing the content that you have. A lot of it is go back into your archive. A lot of times you have some magic that happened and let's repurpose, or whenever you're shooting with intentionality. Like, we'll have people hire us and like, is there a shot list? Oh, just capture whatever. I'm like, I can just go capture whatever, but what do you need? Like, what do you want these photos to do? What story are we telling? And then through those conversations, we can build one out. But I'm fearful with that because it's like, you're already you're not setting yourself up for success. Because I can give you these photos, but you don't even know what you want to do with it. What problem is it solving? What thing is it communicating?
Yeah.
So from like a producer creative side, I always like to work with people like, okay, this event is happening. What's the main thing we want to capture and share and be able to push forward? Or do you have a children's, inner child campaign coming back? Do we want to make sure that we go back and, oh man, there's some youthful stuff, or there's things that we can do, be a thought partner? All right, hey, what if everyone on your board submits a photo of them when they were a child? And they kind of all talk about their own journey and in some form or whatnot to show like, hey, we're vested in this and we get it too. And just, things like that. But I love that you guys are being proactive, meeting people where they're at. That's like the main thing. Because the worst thing that could happen is someone going through a crisis and just they already feel alone. And it's like, if you're not reaching them, that might be the only way to reach them. They're not answering their phone. They're not, replying to emails, but they might see a post and it's like, okay, they see me, they hear me.
Yeah.
Let me reach back out. So I love that you guys are doing that. And it's just fun also just to have that stuff.
And I will say, if you can't get a Luna, there are apps and resources that can help you put together certain things, whether it's Canva helping you with the graphics, Hootsuite. We'll schedule out all of our posts. I'll be busy or something, people thinking we're posting live, and it's like, no, that was scheduled.
I did it on Sunday.
Yeah. We batch schedule our stuff out. I love Opus Clip because you could take your videos and then they'll do the AI B-rolls. If you want to do that feature, remove filler words, add your own photos, and then they'll clip it in the ways that they think, this clip will go viral. So I really like that. And then you can go in and edit yourself if you want to add that extra touch, but you don't have to be a professional editor depending upon what your budget is. And then there's typically free versions of all of these apps.
So kind of use what you have access to and just build up as you move forward. But
and if you're a nonprofit, get most of these apps, they also provide free access to nonprofits. I want to say Canva is $100 or so a month or a year. I don't know, but it's free for us because we're a nonprofit. So just Google, does Canva have a nonprofit rate? Does Zoom does have a nonprofit rate. So whatever platform you're using, see if there's a nonprofit discount or rate.
I needs that.
Yeah.
No, I love it. That's wonderful. So when is the next one? You want to give a date? What's the best way that they can either become a vendor, buy a ticket, all that good stuff?
So the next conference is July 10th.
Come on.
At Hyatt Lake, Washington.
With the view.
Yes, with the view. You can stay. And it's going to be a whole month of activities. So the governor signed the proclamation that it is officially Reclaiming Wellness Month. We are partnering with Sync Seattle, and they're going to be having their Vibes After 5 in honor of Reclaiming Wellness. We're going to have some brunch, other activations. And then outside of the conference, we have a ton of things going around that's going to be happening. Black History Month. We're going to be having a conversation with Mr. Ernest Krim around his book, How Black History Can Save Your Life. And then we've got some things planned for Mental Health Awareness Month, other conversations, activations that we're going to be doing. We're going to be hosting a lunch and learn at Evergreen State College, also a Black History Month in Tacoma, where people can come. We're going to feed you, just learn about the work that we're doing. at the Therapy Fund Foundation. And so, yeah, we have a lot going on. My book comes out end of March, going
Pre-orders
on tour.
available now.
Yes, The Cost of Healing in Silence, Navigating Racial Trauma, and The Call for Culturally Responsive Care. So I'll be kicking that off in Seattle April 1st at Elliott Bay Books, then heading to Portland, Chicago, Vancouver,
I keep seeing cities getting added. I love it.
So
I
many
love
cities. New York City just got added. Where else am I going? Atlanta, San Diego. Yeah. So if there's a bookstore or a library who wants to host this conversation, definitely reach out to me.
No, I love it. And then the best place to get the news for all this would be the website?
Yeah. So subscribe to our email list. Follow us on social media at Therapy Fund Foundation. We have out a monthly newsletter that goes out. And we try not to spam y'all, but every now and again, we'll send out like other updates. We have our Good Gathering at the Columbia Towers. We always have things going on, and we try to make them free or low cost. And the things that do have cost, even like our annual conference, if you can't afford the cost, if you reach out to us, we'll make sure that you can get tickets in person. We set aside a certain number of that. And then, of course, we'll always give you a virtual access code so you can watch it virtually if we can't get you in for free.
I love that. We have an exciting year. 26 is looking up.
Yeah.
I wanted to add a couple of things around leadership and kind of how you have addressed it and what I've heard in the past of like, how does unaddressed trauma show up in leadership spaces?
Oh, man, it shows up in so many ways.
Come on, let them know.
Most importantly, our communication skills, the way that we talk to not only ourselves, but one another. And if you haven't addressed that trauma, you can lash out on others.
That last email.
And that really grinds my gears. No, don't ever send me that, because I might snap back. Don't let these degrees fool you. Yeah, just the way that you communicate, the way that you talk, or being a people pleaser, letting people run over you if you haven't addressed that trauma and you feel like you have to say yes when you really want to say no. So there's so many ways that this impacts our leadership. And I really wish that there was like some mandatory therapy or training or course that leaders need to go to, because anybody could start an organization, start a business, but they haven't been taught how to lead. And that is why so many businesses fail. And I'll say that's why the Therapy Fund Foundation and my private practice has really thrived, because of the way that leadership has been instilled in me, going back to my grandmother, who always said, you know, what Shirley Chisholm said, service is the rent we pay to live on this earth. And I really view myself as a servant leader. My faith also impacts the way in which I lead. And so I think that's important for us to really look at. Why do we lead? Are you willing to do the things that you are leading people into doing? Have you done it before? Every job at the Therapy Fund Foundation, I've done it myself, because when I started it was just me doing every single job, whether it's writing grants, approving vouchers, paying vouchers, the administration work. Even now, people ask me, do you have an assistant? I'm like, no, it's me. While I have social media specialists for the Therapy Fund Foundation, for my own business, it's me. Mm-hmm. Somebody asked me recently if they could be my social media person. I'm like, I kind of like doing it myself. And again, I suffer from I like to do hard things. I'm trying to release it, but there's some things that I just like to do. And I think that's important as a leader. Do you know what it's like to wash dishes? Have you ever washed the dishes in your business? Have you ever even cooked the food if you're a chef or you've got a restaurant? There's lots of people who have money, and so they'll back into these businesses for services that they've never done, they don't know anything about, but they had the financial backing, and then they don't do well. So I think it's important to, again, be a servant leader, lead from a place of openness, and kind of get rid of all those like traditional hierarchical structures. I mean, there needs to be order and we need to get the work done. But I think when we look at what it means to be professional or professionalism, it's rooted in white supremacy. And I'm all about undoing those cultures and creating environments where everyone feels like they can thrive and where everyone feels like they're a leader. While I'm the CEO and the founder, everybody at the Therapy Fund Foundation is empowered to lead, go out, speak on our behalf. In fact, I encourage it. People are always like asking me to speak, and I'm like, how about Nasari or Jesse or Callie or one of our board members, Deontay, Renelda? It doesn't always have to be me. And I think as a leader, it's important to recognize it doesn't have to always be you. We're throwing that word trauma informed out a lot, and people really need to look at the root of what it means to be trauma informed and how we respond. I see a lot of leaders, a lot of organizations that say they're trauma informed, and then they will force things on people that can put them in an unsafe situation, whether it's simple, it may seem simple as standing. You said, you ask everybody to stand, but you don't create an environment for people who may not be comfortable standing. Cameras off, mask off, all of these things. Take your head wrap off. Why? Why is that important for you? So I think we have to really look at our ask, especially when we're saying that we're trauma informed, because you don't know what someone has experienced. Even just reaching out and hugging people without even asking, is it okay to touch somebody? And to be trauma informed means you're recognizing that there's all kinds of different trauma that people have experienced. I really, really do not like when people just reach out and touch my hair, and they love to do that to Black women. And I view that as a form of assault, because I don't go up and put my hands through your hair. Matter of fact, there's this guy I just started following on social media, and he walks up to white people and starts touching their hair and does all of those. You know him? He's awesome. He's wild for that, but just stuff like that. And I think we have to really educate ourselves and constantly unlearn and relearn. I don't know everything. Always having new conversations, reading new books, watching new films, not the reality stuff. At least for me. I get for some people that's your thing. But, that's part of doing the work, especially as a leader, being a servant leader. He's a white guy, but I really like Simon Sinek's books on leadership. Yeah. I haven't found I haven't read too many by BIPOC authors. I'm trying to find more. Call and Response is coming out next month or so, and that's on leadership, written by a Black woman that I'm excited about. And then I've been reading some of Stacey Abrams' books. I just started it, but Simon Sinek has some really amazing books on leadership, and I think it's important to just what are you reading? How are you being taught? Taking courses. When I started the nonprofit, I went back to school. I took nonprofit management at Harvard and had to go stay on the campus and learn about the business of managing a nonprofit.
Oh, I love that, doing the work. And every author you just talked about got some gems for sure. Personally, Simon Sinek's books, I do. Yeah. For me, I'm more of a let me listen to something while I'm either going for a walk or whatever. Yeah. So I did the audio books, but I think he has 3 of them, but all are kind of rooted in optimism and figuring out your why. But part of my rebranding to my Elevate, Amplify, Engage was based in what he was talking about, of having that strong why. And I think
that's his book. It's called Why. That's one of them. I think Why and Leaders Eat Last was one I love.
And it's so true though. If you want to really do it, and like you had mentioned, man, do every job, with the Elite Collective. Man, I've worked the photo booth, I did the photos, I've done the video, I've done the audio, I've done the live streaming, and part of it is to understand it so I can communicate it to potential clients. I think a lot of times some of our creatives kind of have their own language, and sometimes that can be lost when talking to clients. And I feel like I'm a good interface where it's okay, let me translate that for you to you and help to make that work. But also I understand how long does something really take? So I'll catch myself sometimes man, that ain't done yet. But then I'm oh wait, that's video editing. Yeah, that probably is 5 hours, even though it's only a 1-minute video. But to be able to translate that to someone.
And check in if it is taking a long time. Recently, my program director, she was doing our vouchers. We have a very intense voucher system, the way that we pay for our free therapy. And I had asked for it by 4 o'clock or whatever, and it wasn't done. I was what's going on? I was let's hop on a Zoom so I can help you with it. And she shows me her system. And I was girl, this is too much. This just gave me a headache. I would quit. I'm I can't believe you're doing this. And then we log into QuickBooks. I'm and I show her how to pull a report. I'm you could literally pull this bank report that's embedded into QuickBooks. She was essentially doing it all by hand in an Excel spreadsheet. She had color coded and made, and it gave me a migraine just looking at it. So I think sometimes when we do things, our team may find their own way, and then it's our job as a leader to also check in with them if you see things are maybe taking longer, and try to come up with creative ways to streamline the process, because what she was doing was just
adding more steps.
Yeah, and I'm you could pull this report so quick in QuickBooks And it pulls out everything, and it's attached to our bank. And then you don't have to rely on human error, because she was also doing her own math of adding up all the transactions.
I hear you there. And I lead in a similar way.
Shout out to Jaquel. I love her.
Hey, where I will kind of talk about the destination. And I'm like, man, choose your adventure. Right? We love those books. You want to go page 7, 31, whatever. As long as you get to that destination by this time, I'm cool with it within reason. But like you said, sometimes we check in like, man, you're going way over there when there's this other path that you might have not known about. How about we try this way and just kind of find systems is kind of like my big thing now of like, let's find the most efficient way possible. Let you kind of do your thing. You might find a way to work. Let's check in. There might be a hybrid, or you might not even know about this tool exists, like the QuickBooks, where it's like, I didn't even know that was an option. Like, okay, cool. And then you just made everyone's life easier.
Which I didn't know. My accountant told me. So honestly.
Right. Each one teach one. But then it just, again, it helps you because now you can get your report by 4. It saves her 3 hours or whatever she was spending on doing that. And like you said, it's headache work. Like she might not want to quit today, but in 9 months, that turns into burnout and resentment and like, why you got me doing these reports? And this whole time she could have done it in an hour and then been sipping martinis by 5.
Right.
I love it. Okay, now we're gonna get into the future of healing. I know I love the fact that you're always thinking forward and what it could be. I know you're planning this year's thing. You're probably already planning next year's, who you're going to have and all that good stuff. But what would a healed mental health system actually look like?
Oh, I love this kind of question. It's giving Octavia Butler.
Come on.
Like, I just love her futuristic thought process. But healed mental health system looks like one that is available to everybody, accessible, one that is thriving, culturally responsive, rooted in ancestral healing, and one that we can all tap into from birth, because we're all going to feel our feelings, whether it's sadness, anger, all of that. The important thing is to not stay there. And then when we look at chemical imbalances in the brain and other disorders that may be more intense, I think it's important that we have good services available, and that we don't view mental illness. I know you said mental health, but mental illness is a part of that we don't view mental illness in a negative light, that it isn't stigmatized, that we don't think it's something that people can just will themselves out of. And I think a healed system is one that understands the complexity, the nuances that show up in everyday behaviors, and we find a space for all of us to thrive. I love to read. I just finished reading this book called Sociopath. I think her name's Patrick Gain, white woman who has sociopathy, and she details her story. And because she is a white woman, which she acknowledges, she's treated in a way that a Black person or a person of color experiencing sociopathy would not be treated. She gallivants all around California, committing all kind of crimes, never gets caught, comes from a very privileged family. And I think about the services and the treatment that was available to her as a wealthy white woman. And that's how I see a healed mental health system. She was not criminalized, even though she was doing some very, very wild things. And she was embraced from her family, from her friends, from her school, from her therapist, from the mental health system. And so what she was given is what I would like to see given to all. And it's really fascinating just seeing her journey, and especially something like sociopathy, because we really stigmatize it, and it's like those are what she was doing, some criminal things, but those are criminals. They're the crazy people.
Can you break down what that is? I think I don't even have an accurate understanding of what
a sociopath. Stereotypically, when we think of that, we think of like Dahmer, Gary Ridgway, serial killers. But there are people like, and I might be pronouncing her last name wrong, but it's like Patrick Gain, Gagne, I believe is how it's spelled. And so she was a person, she would break into people's homes. They don't feel, so they lack remorse, and that's really what it is. So when we see people like Dahmer, they just go out and unalive someone, and they feel nothing. And she did have those thoughts. There was even a part in the book where she talked about like wanting to kill a cat or something. I kind of feel like she did, and she didn't write it, because I was telling my husband, I read the chapter to him, and I'm like, I feel like she did something to that cat. She just didn't tell us.
Right.
But they feel nothing about it. And even when she had her child, which she had a kid, she felt nothing. So these are just people who are emotionless.
Right.
And
it's like, no, they're unable to have any human connection.
Yeah. And so like she loves her son, but she struggles with how to identify those emotions. And in the book, the one person that she really felt emotion for was her mom. And she would tell her mom all the things that she did. And then her mom would just be like, whoa, this is too much. And so then she struggled with that. And her little sister, who was like the good one, she said, and her husband, and she talked about that. But yeah, they're just people who don't feel emotions like we do. They'll do something and they just have no remorse for it. I can take your iPad right now. It's mine. I don't care that it's yours. And as much as we try to dig into that emotion or have empathy, she really struggles with empathy and other people like her. But we mostly associate them to the Dahmers, when there's a huge percentage of people walking this earth right now, much like her, but the ones who are of color are treated horrendously. Most of them are in prison right now, and she really should have been in prison. Well, I shouldn't say that she should. It's actually a good thing that she wasn't incarcerated, because they shouldn't be criminalized for their behavior. But it was just so profound watching her journey. Her dad is like a music exec, so she stole the Beatles glasses. And there's actually a picture of her in the People magazine when she's a kid having stolen these pair of sunglasses from the Beatles.
Wow.
But yeah, so stuff like that.
A healed mental health system looks like everyone is treated like affluent white women. Is that fair to say?
Well, I mean, when you put it that way.
It's awesome, 'cause I saw something recently, and it was kind of like, an old grandma type story, but they're like, I hope life treats you how you treat black women. And I was like, that's a whole word.
Yeah.
And I was like, if everyone went through life like that, life would be a whole lot better.
How much different would life be?
We need that on T-shirts at the next convention. But yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Like you said, wasn't met with through that lens, right? They were, because I imagine the people in power, being police, judges, whoever, were probably white men looking at her like, oh, that could be my daughter.
Yep.
But then they don't humanize the other folks that are black and brown. That they could also be, maybe not yours, but they could be your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Or something. But yeah, no, that is so true.
I'm going to try and have her do something with us, because we don't talk enough about sociopaths and
outside of serial killers. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in school.
Yeah.
And that's
literally the only thing I remember hearing. And then our not Dahmer, Dahmer too, but the one, he was from here.
Gary Ridgway.
Well,
both of them
but
were
the one that was...
We breed serial killers.
What is the guy? They ended up in Miami. But he was out here. He had the Netflix show.
Oh.
He was like kind of
I know
handsome
who you're
or
talking
whatever.
about. Oh my gosh.
He went to the college.
Yeah, I remember people at his church went to his trial and were advocating for him.
He's a good
I can't think of his name. Yeah. Oh.
This is horrible. Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Ted Bundy. But that's what I remember from being little and hearing that story of like, oh, he's a sociopath. And
because
it's
they
like,
don't feel.
Right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel. That's wild. The next one was, how can organizations embed care into their culture? Don't go too deep, because they need to be paying you to come do these workshops for them.
Right.
But plant the seed.
I'm going to start right there. You can hire me to consult, do some inner works, figure out what's going on to embed culture, but lean on community. Every aspect of my organization and my work goes back to community and that culture. What do people want to see? What are the value systems? Like bringing in, of course, my own values, but then also the people in community. What are the things that are important to you, whether it's integrity, respect, communication, listing out your values, your morals, things that are happening within the community and how you respond to that. And I think that's how we can embed culture into our organizations and community and not be so, what's the word? I want to say hell-bent, like focused on not changing. This is the way it's always been. You got to be able to ebb and flow and move, because things change, systems change, lives change, people change. And so that's one way that we need to be doing that.
You be a little more flexible.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. What does rest mean to you personally and professionally?
It means saying no, not doing all of the things.
No is a whole sentence.
Exactly. Sleeping when I want to sleep. I went on a mini sabbatical during the holidays, and people were emailing and calling my peers. Deontay, one of our board members, hit me up and was like, so-and-so said they emailed you. I'm like, yeah, and they should have got the away message. Like, I'm not responding and holding true to those boundaries. I think that's important. Part of my work in researching racial trauma, I came across a New York Times article that I'll never forget. And it showed the bodies of enslaved folks that were exhumed. And the one thing that stood out to me was that the muscle had literally detached itself from the bone. And I don't know if that's where the saying work yourself to the bone came from, but when I looked at those bodies of enslaved folks who were forced to do labor, I think about my own life and being intentional about taking rest, about taking breaks, and not working myself to the bone because my ancestors didn't have that choice.
No, I love that. I think you're probably one of the first orgs that made it popular. But I mean, obviously, you guys are in the mental health space, but like the idea of self-care. Yeah. And I think you almost made it mandatory. I know that's like you guys take a break after the summer event, and it's like, no, we worked very hard to make this happen. We are not doing anything for this next 2 weeks or month or whatever it was. And I was like, that's what it should be. Like, I try to do a small version of that where if we do an event on a Monday or Friday or whatever, like that next day, like whoever was working, you need to just be off because your body went through a lot. You had adrenaline, you had all the things. And I'm trying to even take it up a step further from also seeing what you guys do at your thing where you have the massage people there and whatnot. It's like, man, get your body worked. Like as much as you need to work on your mind and your heart, your spirit, whatever, like also get your body worked on. Like, you know, your body holds so much trauma and stress, like even for myself, and this might relate to other people out there, but I try my best usually in a leadership position where I need to not show any chink in the armor. Whatever's happening, I'm very like solution based. Like, okay, thing happened. Okay, what can we do from here to fix it? A lot of times there might be like a live show, like, oh, our artist can't make it or whatever. Okay, what's going to be plan B? Or that mic went out. Okay, cool. Let's get the other mic, whatever it is. But I need to be cool, calm, collected. And then one of the folks that work on me was like yours like super tense. Tell me about your work and your life. And like, I don't know if this is for a fact, I can prove it, but they're like, you hold your stress in your body. So then that doesn't come out like in communication or
it can
in
be
your
proven,
mind.
and that's a fact.
Or I'm not diagnosed, but I think I'm self-diagnosed and body worker diagnosed of thinking that that's how it is. And that's kind of how I apply it. We're like, okay, let that be the truth. And I like the ability to be able to segment and be able to handle the moment, but I need to be cognizant of like, I'm going to break down if I continue to do this without taking a break or getting my body worked on. So if I know I had like a 2-day conference, whatever, that next day, like go get a massage or go get a soak, go do something that doesn't require your mental, your anything to allow yourself to kind of come back to center.
And we have a wellness fund. All of our employees get $5,000 a year that they can spend on gym memberships, massages, Reiki, acupuncture, anything like that. And of course, they also get access to free therapy services. And when I first started, we weren't able to pay at $5,000 a year, but it's increased over the years to be able to ensure that our team is well.
No, I love that. Vic, we're going to work on that fund. We need that too. All right, let's see here. And then
everybody doesn't use it. Right. There's one employee that faithfully
like, nope, sorry, can't do it. Massage on Monday.
Gym membership, the massages. Yeah.
I appreciate that's the person that uses all the coupons.
Yeah.
Said wherever they go shopping.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And then how can people support or engage with Therapy Fund? Where's the need?
It's sharing, awareness. That's one of the easiest ways, whether
it don't cost nothing from what I hear.
At all. It doesn't.
Like and share.
Like, share, subscribe, all of that. Have a conversation with somebody in your community. Let them know about this conversation that you heard. We're also always looking for volunteers. I shared that we're going to be having some activations during Mental Health Awareness Month. We also have a book club that we just started in December, the Healing Show. So we're always looking for people to like host our book club, host Wellness Wednesdays, host different activations, join our planning committee, volunteer at our Reclaiming Wellness conference. We are always asked to like show show up at different community events. So if you want a table, just like be visible out in community. We're also looking for youth ambassadors. And we have our cannabis prevention awareness campaign, which Carlos' team is going to be helping us with. So we're looking for youth who either want to join as a youth ambassador or just help with the campaign. And they're going to put together a PSA, which is also going to be presented at our conference. They'll learn how to like film, edit, put it together, create a commercial, or however they want to spread awareness around cannabis prevention. What else do we always have so much going on. But yeah, just tap in with us, follow us on social media, go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and those are just varying ways. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all the places. Yeah.
I love it. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our quick fire round. Couple quick questions, quick answers. A book that changed how you think about healing.
Just one? Well, Tuesdays with Morrie.
Okay. Is there another 2 or 3? Go ahead, you throw it in there.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome, that really changed how I view healing. And yeah, I'll say those 2 are pivotal.
Excellent. One practice or activity you return to when things feel heavy.
Writing.
And a great time to talk about your book one more time.
Yes.
So writing has led to another book coming out?
Absolutely. So writing has been one of the ways that I've used to heal through my own traumas. And I recently wrote The Cost of Healing in Silence, which drops March 31st. And it talks about racial trauma in healthcare and ways that we can actually heal out loud, providing culturally responsive tools and skills for communities of color.
I love it. And it's available on pre-order.
It's
if
available
I'm hearing,
right now.
You get a couple little goodies if you pre-order.
There's a couple bookstores.
Pretty much just for the goodies.
Yes. So if you order from Elliott Bay Books in Seattle, you'll get a signed copy. If you order from Black Garnet Bookstore, there's one more. It's on my website. But if you order from them, you'll get a swag bag, bookmark, stickers, all of those things sent to you from those 3 participating bookstores.
Love it. One myth about mental health you wish to dismantle?
That mental illness is a white people thing.
Facts.
It's an everybody thing.
That myth right there has probably led to too many early demises with our people. Yeah. For sure. A word that describes your current season. Winning.
All I do is win. I will say free.
But you still have to pay for consulting. But she feels it as a free season.
Yes. There's a cost, but the feeling is free. Just free from systems that have held me hostage. Free from things and people that have been harmful. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and I'm choosing joy above it all.
I love that. A song that instantly calms your nervous system.
Hit 'em up.
I like it. And then actually back to one of your answers. Joy looks like blank right now.
Joy looks like freedom.
There we go. Bring it on back. I love it. Well, this conversation reminds us that healing is not optional. It's essential. Ashley, thank you for leading with your courage, your care, your clarity, sometimes thankless work. I'm sure there's a lot of late nights and weekends and off hours that people don't see you and your team doing, but you guys show up consistently for community, for yourselves, and you guys lead by example. And it's love to be a piece of the pie and a part of the journey. Whenever you guys call on, we're always excited and looking forward to another year of free. I guess this is that
but
year.
But not free, because we gonna make sure we pay you.
Feeling free, but getting paid.
Yes.
But yeah, no, thank you again for sharing some time with us. And you always have so much going on, so I'm sure we'll have more to talk about and other things to do. But main thing, I just wanted to show you the space and give you your flowers and, thank you for the work that you do. And hopefully someone out there, again, if it's that little Black girl that sees someone that could be on a podcast, she could be on one too. And also get some degrees and go to UW and go to Harvard and all this stuff.
And Clark Atlanta, shout out to the HBCUs.
Come on, let's go. Yep.
That's where I got most of my knowledge.
There you go. My sister was a Spelman girl, so big shout outs to Atlanta. But yeah, no, just wanted to show that these things can happen. We got Black and brown people in AV space. We got Black and brown people in the wellness space. And if you don't see yourself go ahead and make it, make it your own. You know what I mean? Sometimes we have to do that. We don't see it. We got to build it ourselves. And that's okay as well. So thank you for taking the time, and thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Elite Insights. It's your boy, Carlos Imani. See you next time. Peace.